President has been communicating to the entire committee in every committee meeting about importance of taking RERA membership. So we request all our members to kindly take RERA so that it will help us, to follow certain protocols, process, system which government announces. That's all.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, congratulations to ABPCC on their recognition short span. And yes, here Ram called me. He told that okay, we want to have some knowledge session. I told that you choose the topic, whatever you want on real estate related thing, we can actually discuss. And he chose RERA, which is almost 5 years old. I think most of you know what is RERA, and that may not actually evince that kind of attention. I would have actually preferred a tenancy law or an apartment ownership act, which has been actually drafted now. So which is something new where I could actually give you some kind of value add. This by now I think everyone is more or less, we know what is RERA and how it is functioning. So for me, in fact, I've been in this subject right from the drafting stages. So we in fact actually were part of the RERA rules drafting committee, and we know what kind of thought process were actually there when we drafted the rules itself. So when we drafted the rules, when we first actually saw the act in 2016, we had certain understanding as a legal practitioner. We thought that okay, this is the kind of interpretation the authorities are going to actually take, and all our opinions are in that line. For example, we told that if you complete the project and then put it for sale, RERA won't be applicable, because ongoing projects already they've exempted and it is only controlling the development. So once it is completely constructed at your own cost, you are not going to get the customer money and completed, and you don't need to register. And most of the financial institutions were, in fact funders were thinking that then we need to look at a model where we will completely fund, you complete the project, let's not expose ourselves to RERA, then we launch the project, so that we don't actually get into this draconian law. Act has been implemented 2 years later, nothing doing, whether you've completed or not. For times to come, whenever you are going to sell, you need to register. That is the kind of interpretation the authorities took. That put us in a little bit, still I don't know from where they are coming from, because if you see, all declaration what the promoter is supposed to give under section 4D is all related to development. They need to say the time of completion of the project, they need to actually deposit 70%, which will cover the cost of construction. For a completed project, nothing will be applicable. No declaration which is given by the promoter at the time after completion is nowhere related to this provisions of the declaration, but still the authority is saying that you need to register. So this kind of uncertainties are still there, even though the law has been implemented 5 years back. Still there are a lot of moving parts in this enactment. Specifically, since this audience is more interested to know about what kind of rights, liabilities, duties, obligations which are applicable to consultants or real estate agents, we would discuss on that. I would actually give some kind of information for 10-15 minutes, then I think we can actually have a discussion that would be more constructive, or we can try to deliberate on where our concerns are coming from. As far as real estate agents are concerned, there are only 5 sections which, before that I would say, the Act talks about 3 professionals or three stakeholders whose rights obligations are monitored or supervised. One is the promoter, the other one is the allottee, and the real estate agent. They only talk about these 3 stakeholders. The Act only talks about these 3 stakeholders and how it has to be governed. Implementation of RERA has a draconian impact on the promoters. It completely actually turned around the way real estate projects or real estate has been actually functioning. They are completely impacted on a negative side. Allottee at the same time got such strong ammunition where now they are now actually taking the promoters for task. That is exactly what is happening now. Real estate agent, fortunately, it has been neutral. To my knowledge, I have not actually come across a case where the real estate agent has been penalized. So it can be two ways. One is that we can be very proud that real estate agents are very professional. They are not doing any kind of violation, or at least the customers' dissatisfaction is not that much. Or real estate agents have not been still actually in the radar of, or the customers are not aware of what kind of obligations are there on the real estate agent's part. If we are in the second category, then that is something which we need to actually take note of. If we are in the second category, then it is only matter of time. One media article might bring the customer to actually know that yes, we can also include the agent who has made this deal as part of their claim. Till now, I have not seen any claim where the customer has made the agent as party to the claim. So this can happen only in two stages. One is that maybe the professional, the real estate agent is thorough professional, the customer is very happy with his services, he doesn't want to include him. Or the other aspect is customer is unaware that yes, he has an option of including the real estate agent as part of that complaint. So this, as a professional, we cannot actually close our eyes and think that okay, we have done everything right, so we don't need to worry about it. So this is something which we need to take note of. Only 5 sections deal with real estate agent. Section 9, registration. Section 10, obligations of the real estate agents. Both are simple. Fairly, it says that only registered real estate agent should market registered real estate project. Registered project should be marketed only by registered real estate agent. Only these two conditions are there. Here, the question as registered professionals, we are asking, we should ask whether unorganized player are getting involved in this transaction. If that is the case, as an organization, probably you should think how we could curtail that. If unorganized players are still participating in registered project dealings, that is something as an organization I would suggest Ram and the team can take up that as an exercise and understand what kind of promotional activity we need to do that to restrict that. That is one. The second aspect is registered real estate agent is supposed to market only the registered project. That is where I think there is certain ambiguity comes in. Which project needs to be registered itself is now a confusion. There are certain actually projects exempted under Rule 2H. At the time of implementation of RERA, lot of ongoing projects, they got exemption from DTCP. Structurally completed, that has been out of RERA, they've got one exemption notification done. But the court has now held that that notification is not in order. On the date of implementation of RERA, that is on May 2017, if completion certificate is not there, it is an ongoing project. In that scenario, whether you are marketing a registered project or unregistered project becomes a question. If the promoter defaults, because the promoter defaults, you cannot actually, we cannot say that I am not aware of it. In that scenario, my suggestion would be take a proper representation from the developer with the supporting document. So as a professional, we also need to actually demand certain kind of representation from the promoters, where if the project is not registered with RERA, if they've got an exemption under Rule 2H, take that as a representation. In the event of this project is held to be registered, then we need to have an undertaking from the developer that he will or take a representation, at least what is the backup of that, why they have not registered the project, take that and keep it in hand. Similarly, there is another segment. What is the size of the project which needs registration? 500 square meters of land and 8 units. That is again another confusion. Whether it is only 500 square meters of land or 8 units. When the select committee discussion happened,
it is very clear that 500 square meters is for land development and 8 units for built up development. This is the legislative intent of bringing this 500 square meters and 8 units. But unfortunately, when it has been converted into an act, the language has been used loosely worded. Now the RERA's interpretation of that is either one condition, if it satisfies, then the project needs to be registered. So if the land area is more than 500 square meters or if the development is more than 8 units, it has to be registered. So you need to be very, you need to have clarity. In that scenario, you need to insist on registration and only you need to deal with the registered project. Other than that, another aspect which came to consideration was adjudication of disputes on RERA, unregistered projects in RERA. So we were under the impression that since RERA is regulating certain projects, all disputes which are arising on that project alone will be adjudicated by RERA. Balance project will actually go to the civil court. RERA has now told that registration is independent, adjudication is independent. Registration, whether they can register the project here or not, when it comes to complex, when it comes to adjudication, RERA has the authority to do that. These are aspects which we need to actually consider. As far as the penalty is concerned, section 62 deals with the contravention of agent who defaults in either registration or their obligation. Obligation is nothing. They say that whatever is there on record, you need to only disclose the information which is available on record. You cannot disclose something which is not available in record. That is as simpliciter, we need to do that. As, if the documents backs your statement, you don't need to worry. But if there is anything or any assurance which you give beyond the document what is available, that is something RERA would treat that as a contravention. Section 62 says in the event of default or contravention, the real estate agent can be penalized up to 10,000 rupees per day, which can be accumulated up to 5% of the apartment cost or the plot which you have facilitated. That is the quantum of compensation that can be penalized for any contravention or breach. Then section 65 talks about not obeying the authority's order. Again, there is a penalty provision which would not exceed this 5%. 66 talks about the non-compliance of real estate authorities' order. So these are the penalties. One interesting aspect in this whole thing is, for developer, there are obligations, there are duties, there are rights. For allottees, there are obligations, there are duties, there are rights. Strangely, for real estate professionals, there are only obligations.
No responsibilities.
Responsibility is there, obligation is there, you don't have a right. If the allottee fails to pay you your service fee, RERA is silent on that. If promoter fails to pay the service fee, RERA is silent on that. This is something as an organization you should actually put across. There should be an enabling provision in the Act where your claim should also be dealt with in RERA. Why that is so important is RERA is a summary proceedings. You don't need to do a trial. You don't need to actually put witness on the box, and you don't have a long drawn legal procedure. So this is something, I don't know whether there is no provision which enables it. As a matter of interpretation or as a matter of inherent power which is available in the before the regulatory authority, if he is going to admit it or not, that we need to wait and see. But this is something where I found that there is a gap in the Act. When you say there is an obligation, there should also be a right. When there is an obligation, how can you don't have a right, that may not be the position. So this is something which as an organization I would suggest that you should take it up. So with this, I'll be happy to discuss on any specific issues or specific queries if you have.
Thanks, Jay. So the first question that I wanted to ask you is, in Tamil Nadu, now they have insisted that all these layouts, which is regularized, they have to go to RERA and get a RERA number and then subsequently register. I think there was an order that was passed in 2020 by the Inspector General of Registration,
Right.
which is not followed, which is followed very seriously now. The question that I have is, why should somebody hold back 70% of the payment in a layout development? In an apartment, I know the product has phases, it gets developed. Why is that?
That's what I'm saying. So these are, how to put it across, I'm a loss of the right term to use. I wouldn't even say redundant. This seems to be illogical. It,
I have 1.5 to add. 70% insistence is given only because the developer doesn't complete the project.
no, sir, on a
Sir,
layout. which
on a
is
layout,
regular
if you have to go to RERA,
No,
you have to complete everything. Then only there is RERA applicable.
Sir,
So
first of all,
you don't get your final sanction unless and until, see, earlier days it was possible. Now you have to hand over your roads, your street lights have to be photographed. Then this gentleman has to stand there on all four corners. Everything, the water tank has to be done. Then it has to be, documented, pata transferred, subdivided. Everything has to happen. So there's no way that somebody can stall a development. Earlier days it used to be there. Now you can't do that.
on a layout development, now your infrastructure is going to be surrendered prior your approval. Most of your infrastructure is being so, and especially on a redevelopment, there is no question for regularization. There is no question at all because it is already developed. You are only regularizing the developed plot. Strangely, I will actually give you a better example. Now RERA is saying that commercial IT buildings or commercial buildings which has been constructed by the promoter himself to lease it to monthly rent. They are saying they need to come and register because there is a word in the allottee's definition which says that allottee means plots or buildings, sale of plot or buildings in lease or freehold basis. I in fact had a discussion, I told that the intent is a sale in the fashion of lease.
You're talking about Simco land.
No, sir. I'm talking about IT buildings or commercial buildings.
No, only in Simco the lease concept is there.
That is on land. We are talking about they are
Sublet is allowed. Subleasing is allowed.
That's right. That's
It was
right.
not there before.
That's right. So here they are actually insisting that all commercial building, IT buildings who construct for their own use, without registration, they are not allowing the lease to actually get registered with the sub-register because they have given a circular saying that you should not register the lease unless and until this project has been registered with RERA. What is the requirement? These are things, probably this has to be challenged. Only difficulty in challenging these matters in High Court, in my experience, I am saying, it opens up a different dimension to the issue. Okay. We go with one issue, we actually come out with two more actually. So everybody is worried that why should you, okay, if that is the case, RERA, they are simply saying that, why should you bother? You are only actually paying this much of fee. Register and get your things done. They are not addressing the principal question whether I am required under law to register or not. That is our question. That is exactly your point. I agree with you. That is not required at all for a regularization scheme, but that is how it is functioning now.
Thanks, Jay.
Any other questions?
What do you mean by 70% deposit? What of that 70% should they deposit? I'm not entirely.
70% of your customer collection has to be deposited in the RERA account, and it has to be withdrawn based on your project completion.
Okay.
So your project completion means your land cost and your development cost together you would declare as an estimated project cost.
Right.
That would be treated as your 100%.
Right.
And whatever your project has been completed, whatever is the percentage completion endorsed by the professionals, Up to that limit, you can withdraw. Suppose your project, for example, what Shiva's example, it is only a process. For your case, it would not affect your cash flow, but you need to go through the RERA's account and take the money out. So only the process related issue would be there. Otherwise, for withdrawal, there would not be an issue.
So the experience was stringent because most of the promoters were collecting money and depositing in different projects. That is the reason that
Sir,
restriction
on the legacy issues, sir, it is biting the promoters
that's
back.
what they are suffering. It is
Otherwise, today they are in fact suffering because the perception only now bites back. Everywhere you go, developer, okay, they take them for a ride is the perception. But today I am handling so many clients, I pity them.
He's a realtor and advocate too.
Oh.
And it goes in the escrow account, correct? It goes in the escrow account, 70%.
RERA account, it's not an escrow account, it's a RERA account.
In the redevelopment cases also that is applicable.
Redevelopment of what, sir?
Apartments.
Redevelopment of apartment, there is an exemption provided in the act, but if the owners themselves redevelop, it is not applicable. But if you give to a developer and redevelop, it will be applicable.
We are going to do.
If the owners, existing owners themselves redevelop for their own purpose, then RERA is not applicable.
No, though, just to finish, follow up, though I completely love that we need a license number or something, a RERA number to get this real estate as agents, but I don't know what's the point from what he has said. If it's just obligation, then what is the point?
That is precisely the reason whereas not most people are not.
You have the responsibility to reveal bona fide, genuine information.
No, see what JP is talking is a legal perspective of it. For a real estate broker to have gained self-respect is only because of RERA. If RERA was not there, he must have known for sure the word broker was not coined. In fact, NAR India, when the act was formed, we are a part of the National RERA Council even now. The term broker, இந்த ரியல் எஸ்டேட் பண்ணக்கூடிய தரகர்களுக்கான மதிப்பே வந்து அந்த இடத்துல மட்டும்தான் இருந்தது. If you have a RERA number, see, in developed economies, that works very differently. But in a country like us, it will take 5 years. Probably, I don't know, in the next 10 years when your child is coming to this business, he says proudly that my father was the 10th RERA license holder. The world will look at you very differently. You're today only talking about primary projects. I'm seeing some time in the future, in secondary they may come up with RERA. They will definitely come up with RERA. So when they come up with that point of time and they say, I'm not going to give you more than 2,000 registrations this year, what will you do? You'll be left out. So I'm saying everybody should register yourself under RERA. Whether you're doing primary, secondary, doesn't matter. But RERA gives you respect.
But there should be one nation, one license.
See, we are already fighting on it. See, we've already fought on it. I'll explain when I'm taking up the thing. Yeah.
I am done. Thank you.
No, I would like to thank JP and since JP is so much involved in real estate activities, we are proposing here to, we are offering him honorary membership in APPCC, which JP has agreed to also. I had a casual chat, JP and me had a lengthy discussion before. He said, let's have coffee table meeting. Whatever doubts you have, once in a fortnight I'm ready, my time is available. Bring in your members, we will share knowledge. I'm here for that. I have a passion towards and we will contribute it. So JP, welcome. Yeah, I am selfish that my association is to grow. I am selfish that we all have to gain knowledge. Yes. So thank you, JP. It's really a pleasure and welcome to APPCC. Thank you.
I request Shiva to felicitate on APPCC's behalf.